So I guess like before we look at it, did you want to talk about anything?
Um, Give me one second.
Yeah, take your time.
Okay. Yeah, now I have it here. I'm just looking for, okay, now could I have the ones that have the that has the feedback? So first and foremost, thank you so much. You don't understand what it means for me to get like a feedback from a professional filmmaker, director, writer. It means a lot to me. Because that's one of the things that's just the hardest to get, especially when you're
Yeah,
writing.
absolutely. Yeah,
Locked into your thoughts, and it's like I've read the script over and over and over again. It's like I can't even see much, so I'm
yeah,
always looking for feedback. Like I want to see what, like, I know people don't talk like this, but that's just what I have in the moment. Sometimes I've been reading like a novel, and then I see how the conversation is going, so I go back to my script and like rewrite the conversation the way it looks in the novel, just because that's like the feedback I can get in the moment. So when I get feedback from like people, it means a lot to me. And then when I now get feedback from like a fellow filmmaker, that means so much to me, because I'm like,
yeah.
it's worth much more than money to me. You won't understand what I mean by that, but I really appreciate it, you know. Um, so yeah, let's go into the very first one. And a lot of these things that you pointed out are like questions that I've been asking myself over and over and over again. Like, how do I achieve this? How does this play out? Another thing I was going to say is, because it's a mystery, so many of those things would definitely won't be said in the film, but they have to be in the script, because I need the audience, I mean, not the audience, like the actors to know what I'm trying to convey. So when we're filming, then maybe they can like use body language or gesture, or maybe like the DP could like focus on the face to like show their facial expression, so we understand what they're trying to convey. But because it's a screenplay, I just have to write a
Right.
lot of things.
I mean, that largely depends on who your actors are. Uh,
Yes.
Professional actors in a big budget script, you're not going to see any like, they smile, they feel nervous here. You're not going to see that
Mm-hmm.
because it's up to the actor to you're when you're casting somebody, you it's your job to pick somebody that fits the role. And then after
Yeah.
that, your job is done pretty much. You're supposed to pick the person that doesn't need to do too much work to get to the character.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 So yeah,
But definitely
break this.
something I do like in regards to like what you were saying with like, writing down all of what you want the actor to be going through in the moment. I definitely keep that information, but I keep that like in a separate notebook so that when I'm on set with the actor, if they need that extra help, I can walk them through it to get them where I want to get them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so the actors should just look at the script and be able to um yeah, bring the character out. I've done like three table reads with like the screenplay, and based off the table read, each of the table read, I'll go back and like do like a revision of the script. Like the very first one, I wasn't really crazy about it because they were like just reading it, and I just want them to just read it and just take that moment to like just start getting to know the character, getting to know the role until they can fully immerse themselves into it. And during the reading, some of them were just reading, and then there was this guy, the guy that's playing the detective. He just started getting into character, and everyone was like, catching off his vibe, and people were just like, they started like getting into character and like playing the role the way they're supposed to play. So,
That's good.
what I got from that was, okay, if actors, they already know the job. Their job is to bring the characters to life. However, as a screenwriter, I still have to like put things there for them to work with. But yeah,
Well,
that's
I mean, it's important for them to be able to get the context of the scene. Like if it's
yeah,
a tense scene or a sad scene, like it's important for them to get that just from what's happening, not from a line that tells them what to feel in that moment. So like
Yeah,
if they don't understand what they're supposed to feel, that is indicative of the scene not being clear. And that's going to come across when you film it too. So that's really important to take note of.
yeah, yeah. All
And
right.
there's a couple scenes where I think we can talk about what
Yeah.
that looks like. I think
Okay.
as a whole, toward the like the middle to the end is where you really I think hit your flow with the script. That's when like everything starts to fall into place. But that's where also like the tightest writing is, I think.
Yes.
It's really just finding your way there and like, not taking too long,
Yeah.
not like,
Yeah.
not spending too much time.
Yeah, like the beginning is just like me trying to get
Yeah,
people
I
to
know it's tough. The beginning's
was
tough.
just
Yeah.
like taking them. So for me, I was trying to set things up. Like this scene, for example, wasn't there before. This one with the car, with the detective by going to get the
Hmm.
flowers. It wasn't there before in the very first version. It was just trying to build up the characters. Like if you see the very first version of the screenplay, you even want to talk about it because it was just like two-dimensional. Nothing was, it was like none of the character has any depth or layer to them. So this all just kept coming from, rewriting and rewriting and rewriting the whole thing. Um, but yeah, it's the beginning, and I see exactly what you mean. Like a lot of work needs to be put in the beginning. So you want to maybe we should talk about the feedbacks that you have, and then I'll just let
Yeah.
you know what I have in mind initially, and then we'll see what we could do to like iron things out.
Yeah.
So
So, I mean, I guess the first thing that we have here is just, just me being curious of if because, you have this kind of stunt here that's kind of tricky. Um,
yeah.
Personally, I don't think this scene doesn't really do anything for me, but that also depends on what you want from this character. I know you have this big twist planned, but it very much comes out of nowhere, and that can be an issue for sure. Um, and then you spend this first scene where we see the cop showing that he's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
I guess your idea for that is to make the twist more shocking
Yeah.
because, oh, you see him as a good guy, but then he's a bad guy at the end.
Yes.
I see where you're coming from with that, but that to an audience is just upsetting because you're telling them one thing and then you're switching it. That doesn't make for a twist. That just makes for like a random choice. That doesn't feel intentional. Whereas like if we see him just sort of being like his natural flawed self, like obviously this is someone that has issues that we should see him sort of giving hints to his true character. Like you don't have to have him being bad or anything like that, but like you need to set up for that twist. It can't just come out of nowhere. If you watch movies like that have like that big twist at the end, you're always gonna watch back and you're gonna see, oh, this is where he starts to show you who he is. This scene, that's really strange that he made this choice. I wonder why that is. And then you're gonna see the twist and you'll be like, oh, that makes sense. It has to build up.
Yeah,
Does
but
that make
it's
sense?
it makes sense. Um, but the build up is something that I'm because like that's the whole point of this thing to build up and work our way towards the end. And also keep in mind he's not a bad person. He's just making bad choices too at the end of the day. Um,
Well, yeah, so everyone is always gonna, in their perspective, they're the good person. That
mhm.
that's that's definitely true. But you also need to put them in a world, in a situation where they're not in the right, unless he's the protagonist, which, in this case he's not. Um,
Because the whole point of this scene was for us to see him do something good, which is letting the guy go. And he's coming out with the bouquet to go to his dad's burial site.
yeah,
So
but
that's
it
instead of
it's
this.
just that this is so in contrast. of his character later that like it feels like a different character. It doesn't like I don't know. It's really tough because
Let me give you a scene. So I don't know if you've read this book by Stephen King. Um, Shit, I forgot the name. But there's this character there. The character is we see him is like a street merchant, and he's doing good to people. And so while he was out there doing something, a dog was barking at him, and he was able to like fend off the dog, and everyone saw him do it in a very nice way, and people saw him as a nice person. So after everyone left, this guy now went back to the dog and sprayed um tear gas in the eye of the dog. I think pepper spray or whatever, and he
yeah.
beats the dog to death. Are you talking about something like that?
Yeah,
'Cause-
see, like that is definitely something. Obviously, sh like you're giving him a moment alone, and you're
Mind you,
showing us who he
that
is when he's
yeah, that
alone.
also happens at the beginning of the scene of the novel.
Hmm.
So it showed us who this guy is, and then he goes back to showing because the guy was like a damn, I can't remember. But like the guy, he kept showing the guy in the light of being a good person. And in the novel, because he did an interview and he said his goal was to make the audience keep asking the question of, can't you see that this guy is a bad person? Because he keeps appearing as a good person to everyone, but us, the reader, the audience, we can tell that this guy was the guy who beats the dog to death. And this guy has so many malicious plans, but to the people in
Right.
the world of the story, they are all good people. And then he reveals it at the end that he's really a bad person. So I don't know if that's what you're trying to convey, because
Yeah. So I mean, so in that case, in that there was hints early on that he was a bad person to the audience.
now, if I'm bringing that kind of story into this, if I want to like, let's say I want to rework that kind of story into this, the only way would be the detective showing up somewhere and beating this driver to death for like bashing his car.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. It's also really tough because I don't think, it sounds like you take a lot of inspiration from novels. That's great, but you need to also be very aware that a novel is absolutely nothing like a movie.
No,
That
I'm not-
there's
It's not the novel now, it's the story. I'm just kind of focused on the story.
right. No, yeah, I'm just saying because like before you also commented on, you know, taking lines from a novel, like the way someone speaks in a novel is not the way they speak in a movie. Just
Yeah.
just 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 so that that's out there because, I think reading other drama scripts would be very beneficial as well if you want to see sort of like how they set things up and how the scripts are available online like all the
Yeah,
time.
I read
Um,
tons of script all the time too.
yeah,
Because I do read screenplays, and especially if it's like an adaptation, because I also want to be doing that too. So I read the screenplay version, I read the novel version, and then I watch the movie too, just to see what's, how things have grown from being a novel to screenplay and then to movie. Because oftentimes when I see the screenplay and the movie, most times they are like two different things. You will see the note the screenplay, but then on set you could tell that they kept making artistic choices just to like tell the story visually to make it much more
yeah,
compared to what's in the screenplay. So I usually do
yeah. I
all
mean, you could definitely find ones that are closer. Like if especially if you find like a writer director, you'll see a more close relationship between the script
and the
and
movie.
the and the movie.
Yeah.
And that's also indicative of a better director, if they have that plan from the start. Um, Bong Joon-ho, his screenplays are pretty much exactly what he shoots.
Oh,
Edgar Wright, um,
I think Spielberg is like that too.
Spielberg, I think is like that as well. I
Yeah.
mean, it depends because he doesn't um,
He said something,
direct.
I watched one of
Yeah,
his interview. He said if it's not written down in the screenplay, it shouldn't be on the screen.
yeah,
Yeah, so to him it's
yeah. I
like
mean, there's times where you find things while you're filming, but for the most part, it should be exactly because the script should work. And if they're changing things, it's because it doesn't work in the script. So like, the script should work in the beginning.
yeah.
Um, But
Yeah,
this is
I understand
it's also very hard, because you're coming from a drama place with this, and I think dramas are probably the hardest genre because they're the most common. People have probably seen the most dramas.
hmm
Um, so you're coming from a place where everybody knows the things you're going to do before you do them. But that can also, if you keep that in mind, that can be a strength. Like some of the comments in here, I mentioned that, like this is kind of odd. Like we know where you're going. You don't need to spend so much time here because we've seen this before.
hmm
Um, so you can condense in some parts because we understand what you're doing. You don't need to like set like A, B, and C up because we already know A and B. Um, but let's continue to go through it because
Yeah, but
I don't want
to respond to your question, yeah, do you have a plan for how to pull off the stunt?
Oh
I don't
yes,
think it's gonna be a full stunt. It's just him try. I'm not gonna. It's not. I didn't picture it as something that's not filmable. And also from a camera
right,
angle, we can just insinuate the car bashing into his car.
right. No, absolutely. I mean, I'm definitely also like just so you know, like I'm obviously coming at this from a more producer standpoint. I want this to be first of all, I want this to be possible,
Mm-hmm.
and I want this to be, not you said you want to do 8 days of this.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's very difficult. That is borderline unprecedented to do 11 pages a day. It's doable, um, but also, you don't want your crew to hate you. I don't know how big of a crew you plan to have. If it's like smaller, that's fine. Like the size of the crew doesn't matter. Like we can definitely do this with a very small crew if that's how you want to approach it. But you don't want us to be shooting for like 12, 14 hours every day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
one big thing I would like you to think about as we go through this is you currently have 15 locations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, give or like I could be missing one, but I'm pretty sure you have 15 total locations. Um, and that includes backyards of houses, which I assume, for example, if you have a house planned for Maria's house, I assume it has a backyard. Um,
Yes.
but I have that listed as a separate location because you do need to move all the equipment. So like, I'm thinking about how we're going to be moving from location to location because every single day we're going to be doing several locations. Um,
Yeah.
if you do this in 8 days. That takes a lot of time. Um, and also when you like I said, you can do maybe you could probably do 11 pages a day, but I think what you're going to find is that you're not going to be satisfied with the product because you're going to have to be constantly rushing
Yeah.
and you're going to do 2 or 3 takes and you're not going to be satisfied with what you get, but you have to move on because otherwise you won't be able to finish.
Yes.
That's very frustrating, especially, for everybody because your crew and you are going to spend all this time on the project and it's not going to be as good as it can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas, that's just to say, like, I would love to see a version of this with less locations if possible. Um, Definitely, I think this whole floral store thing, I don't think this is helping you right now. Um, I think you could even, if you want, if you could even introduce the detective character later on. Like the first time we see him can be at the crime scene, but that's just a random thought. That's not
Yeah,
very.
so like if we check maybe I should say that the very first version of the screenplay, the first place we saw the detective was at a crime scene. Um,
Mhm.
this was just to because I want to set him up as because like a lot of this thing was so disconnected, and initially he didn't have a dad, and then Darnell wasn't the one who killed his dad, but I had to like just keep working it into the screenplay just to
Mhm.
make it more to give it more reason because the whole movie just ended with the detective going to Barbara in the office and that was it. And the ending, I wasn't satisfied with the ending because I was like, okay, he goes there, he offers some money, and that's it.
Hmm.
So I just had to keep reworking this thing, and then um we spoke about the ending and then ending it with a shootout. But then when we had the shootout, I was like, what's his reason for having getting the shootout with Danielle? Because it doesn't make
Hmm.
any sense. Like, okay, you could have just disappeared or accident, but then we're like, okay, Danielle was the one who killed his dad. And then we started like, okay,
Yeah.
let's see him go to the burial ground scene at the beginning to just like show that okay, he's grieving about his dad. And then I had to create another scene of his dad appearing to him just to like set the tone for the second half of the story,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, I mean,
But if it doesn't have to be there, I'll just see what I can do and maybe like
I don't think you need a lot of that stuff. I mean, especially if you want this kind of twist, like I think you can just show how obsessive the detective is to find this guy. Um, and the audience is going to be constantly wondering why he's so obsessed. Like, we can show reasons why this is like a regular kind of case, but we see him acting differently. We see him more invested than he should be, and that can sort of build up just naturally, passively. And then once you introduce Darnell, I think everything that you have with Darnell is really good. Like I think every scene that we
yeah,
have with Darnell is
everyone
is is
keeps
pretty.
saying that, honestly.
Yeah.
And he's not even
I
the
mean,
main character in the film.
yeah, he's also one of the most interesting characters because he's sort of unique, I guess. Like, I mean, it's 2024. Everything has been done, so you can't worry about being different. You can't worry about being creative because that doesn't exist anymore. But
Mhm.
you you know I think especially in this context of this kind of like drama, I think Darnell is pretty different where he's like interesting, and that whole like regretful, like he doesn't want to kill anymore. That's I think that's interesting. And maybe if you lean in more to that, like we see that he's done killing. We see that like something bad happened obviously on his last job and he's regretful or whatever it may be. And maybe if you reveal more about the detective's dad, but we don't know it's his dad, like we reveal more about the person that he killed and how he feels bad or whatever, then once once those two parts of the story come together in the end and the audience can connect those dots, that will be more satisfying because the audience did the work. So they will feel more satisfied to have made that connection. Whereas instead of you just showing them, you know what I mean? Like it's fun, like mysteries are fun to watch because you get to put together the story, not because you're told, okay, this is the killer. It's because you figured it out on your own.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. So it sounds like having a scene with Danielle in action at the beginning with a stranger who happens to be the detective's dad.
I wasn't even thinking that, but I mean that could maybe work. I was just thinking more of like in the scenes that you have with her now, like there's, this the scene where he talks to Wendy, I think, about the last job and how he doesn't want to work anymore. Like you could make that a little bit longer and you could talk about, like why, like maybe she could ask why and he doesn't want to answer, that type of thing. Um,
Yeah, I'm remembering there's this movie with what's it called? Safe House. You've seen Safe House? Ryan Reynolds and Denzel.
yeah, I think so.
So you remember the scene when Denzel was like, "Don't kill people."
Oh yeah, with Denzel. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He said, "Don't kill innocent people," and he mentioned the name Edward something. And
Hmm.
and I haven't seen the movie in a very recent time. It's because that scene it mentioned someone's name. He made reference to why you shouldn't kill someone innocent,
Right.
and they didn't even have to show it. It was just a dialogue between him and Ryan Reynolds,
Yeah.
and able to like justify that whole "don't kill innocent people" philosophy in that scene.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And I also think that, I've definitely seen it where, the hitman or the killer, whatever it may be, has this person that they've killed unintentionally, and it kind of weighs on them, and they kind of expect it to catch up to them one day. So, there could be also be
Yeah,
that moment.
that's a
Yeah, I
lot.
mean, that's how it feels, yeah, with Darnell and the cop at the end. So like he kind of knows that he's gonna die, like he almost like feels like that will set things right if the detective kills him.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's the so you honestly, that's what I'm trying to achieve with Danielle. That's what you just
right.
said. Um, I'm glad you said that, especially as a filmmaker, film producer, because I felt like I achieved something with that. But that's what I'm trying to achieve with
Hmm.
Danielle in the end. So it's just the laying the foundation for
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go through this more and we'll talk about it, but something that uh I think could work with you. I don't know if you how familiar you are with Aaron Sorkin and his work. Um, he's
Yeah,
one of the best screenwriters of our time. Something he does that maybe you would like to try. I mean, it's kind of a lot of work, but something he does with I think all of his scripts is he gets to a point where he's a few drafts in, and then he will rewrite it from memory. And what that does is that automatically makes you forget the scenes that you don't need for the script to work. So and usually what happens is, well, according to him, is he'll end up with a shorter script, and it will have scenes that he subconsciously removed because they didn't add anything. So maybe I don't know, that could be a fun approach. But obviously it's
so he
a
writes
lot of
the
work.
full screenplay
So he
and then
writes the like he'll do a few drafts,
mhm.
and all of his scripts are like two hours minimum. Um, so he'll have 200 to 300 pages, and then he'll rewrite it from memory, not looking at anything. Um,
That's interesting.
yeah, but
Okay.
also that's obviously a lot of work, and he is one of the most experienced writers there is. So that's don't like compare yourself to him. So obviously that's he also this is his only job, so he can afford to sit there and
Yeah,
write.
that's what I've been thinking. Because I wish I could have like a movie that would give me some money and then I could quit my job and just go
Yeah,
with writing only, you know.
yeah,
But I
it's a
got
lot of work.
bills. Yeah, sometimes because I work like 65 to 70 hours a week. By the time I'm home,
Yeah,
I'm just done. So
yeah, it's
my
really tough.
yeah, my days off is when even I try to write like when it's not my day off, it's really hard because I always stop halfway and I'm never satisfied. So I just save it till my day off so I can like do it the whole day and
Right.
then and like set myself up, set the tempo, do whatever I have to do.
Yeah,
So it was like midday and like towards like 6 p.m. I just spend those times writing. And then after 6 p.m., I go watch a movie or go do something
yeah.
else, get my mind off it.
And so I also wanted to ask, like, are you kind of like you're kind of at the point where you don't want to do shorts anymore? Like you want to move on to a feature?
Yeah, because I just want to be doing feature. I mean, it does matter to me though. Because I do a lot of writing. I have a lot of short
Hmm.
films written, and I just don't have I've never gotten the chance to film them.
Hmm.
So I just have them. I think maybe one of these days I could end up just filming one of them or doing a web series of all my unproduced short film. But I think I finished film school in 2021 and I haven't done anything since I finished film
Yeah,
school.
it's definitely really tough. A lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah,
I struggled with that for a long time.
yeah,
I
so I'm
I,
like,
I recently started doing a short film a month,
yeah,
just kind of focusing on telling very short, simple stories that I could easily make on my own, um,
yeah, yeah,
while
yeah,
also producing other short films for festivals. Um, and that's been really good. It's because you can't constantly make work and not learn from it. So it's really important to be doing the work, like every single short you have under your belt is gonna make your next project that much better. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely
but
understand wanting to move on to a feature. It definitely feels like sometimes shorts like don't do anything for you. Um,
yeah, and I see you do something that I really admire, like submitting to film festival. I don't really do film festivals because to me,
yeah,
it's like I don't know if it's gonna work, if it's not gonna work, and you have to pay for all these things.
yeah,
So I just put it on YouTube, and I'm like, I don't know, whatever happens, happens.
yeah. I've
So
been doing more YouTube lately than anything.
yeah, so for me, I'm just like, okay, if I could make this and just put everything I have into it and just see what comes out of it. And then, because honestly, also, I work retail. I work for CVS, and I don't want to be doing
Yeah,
retail. Retail
yeah,
takes all of your life. It sucks your life. So if I'm doing something like this and I'm putting everything I have into it, I prefer doing that than doing retail. And I really want to
yeah,
push. So this is not just I mean, I do love writing, I love filmmaking, but it's also like it's almost like a way out of retail for me. So I could
yeah. Of
do
course.
what I want to do full time. So I could be a full-time writer and just because if I'm writing, I could do at least two screenplays, two feature films in 1 year. Because like this, I've been on this screenplay for like 4 months now, and that's me just doing 2 days a week. And sending it out and getting feedback and sending it out and getting feedback and sending it out and getting feedback. If I can just like, if I'm doing this full time, I know I would have gotten way much more ahead of this and I can also like focus and like do more research and do a lot of things and just make the project as good as I believe it can get. So that's
Right.
why I'm trying to like do this. I also have like other screenplays that I've written, but yeah, and that this is like the very first time I would also write. And when you said it has like 15 locations, that's surprising because my goal for this film was to have a small location so I can film it.
Yeah, it's very hard
And,
to keep it low
yeah,
locations for sure.
yeah, and then all the feedbacks, I'm like, okay, let me create this. And then you get another feedback, I'm like, okay, I just want this to work. So
Yeah,
yeah, and then other film screenplays that I wrote, they're like sci-fi, it's dystopian world. I,
yeah.
I can't really
Yeah,
do one of those
I do a
things.
lot of that stuff too. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, there's a lot of really great. I think as far as writing, like I don't know how much you've looked into like screenplay competitions. I think as a whole, the screenplay side of like the submission, like not they're not festivals, but there's a lot of like competitions and like grants that you could apply for with screenplays. I think there the percentage of people that find success that way is much higher than the percentage of people that find success at film festival. Like I think better those are better suited and better built to like
yeah.
create
So
opportunities for people.
yeah, I was watching Outstanding Screenplay and they're like, they have this screenplay competition. So I was like, okay, let me submit one of my short film. And they're like, you gotta pay money to do it. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. Once I see that you have to pay money, I begin to doubt the authenticity because I'm like, why do I have to pay money for? Maybe that's
Well, I
just
mean
me.
it's not that. I mean they have to pay their workers, you know?
Yeah,
That's how they I don't think like I get what you mean, but also any reputable place is going to charge you. Um,
okay.
I think film festivals are much more like scammy about it. Like there's a lot of film festivals that charge you for like each individual award. That's
Yeah,
disgusting to me. Like if they charge you for like best short film, best director, best actor, like a different price for each one, that's disgusting. But
yeah,
I think a lot of screenplay competitions, especially if you do early bird, like I've done a few of them, and you know that they'll range from like 20 to like, and there are free ones too. They'll range from like 20 to like 50, 60 if you do the early bird. A lot of them will come with like feedback, like really good feedback sometimes. Um, but yeah, you should look into Coverfly is the website that has like all of the good ones. Um, and then also once you have your script on there, it can the more it gets like graded by these submissions, it will like give you like a score. Like I have a screenplay on there right now that's like top 30% or something for like fantasy screenplays. Um,
Is it
I don't know
feature?
what that, yeah.
Oh,
Um, and I guess you could maybe use that if you're talking to somebody that wants to talk with them about it. I don't know, but it's definitely cool to like I've definitely heard a lot of success stories, especially from like people like us, like people that don't get as many opportunities,
mm.
um, marginalized communities and stuff that need the opportunities. Like there's a lot of festivals that cater, or not festivals, there's a lot of competitions that cater directly to us. Um,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
there's definitely some free ones.
if I could get anything, even if it's like 5,000, 10,000, I could find the rest of the money to like reduce it,
Yeah.
But I'm thinking
I
of,
think the Zoom is going to end, by the way, in a couple
yeah,
seconds.
I'll send you
We're gonna
another
do
one.
another one. Yeah.
But
And
let
then
me
we can
just,
get into the script.
all right, maybe you should send me a link because usually it's gonna ask me to wait for like 10
Okay.
minutes.
Yeah, I could do that.
All right, just send me a link and just let me give me the permission
Yep.
to record it. Okay, good. Man, you want to share the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I got the whole thing for this one. I'll also keep thinking about it and see how we can make something come full circle without giving anything away.
Yep. All right. So let's move on to yeah. So well, we already talked about this. Um, remove this. Okay. Yeah. So so this is an example of one of those moments I talked about where the audience has seen stuff like this before. I think I I I'm not crazy about the whole um cemetery scene. I could see how you could make it work, depending on like what you do with like where we first see the detective and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, like I could see this working. I just don't think it works right now with where it is. Um,
Yeah, I think for this one, if I have to take out the dialogue, then I have to build like the thing that shows his dad's name, and then we know it's his dad.
yeah, that could be cool because then we see like also if we like hear Darnell mention his dad's name or something like that, like then we can maybe connect it.
Yeah.
Um, but but yeah, just because like we see that a detective at a cemetery already, we're gonna know he's there like with a vengeance or like so he lost somebody like we've seen this before. Um, so I think the less you like hammer it over our heads, the more we're not gonna get bored, because that's what you don't want to do is bore your audience.
Yeah.
Um, um, suspects. So this is more because like I wasn't, I wrote these notes like as I was reading it, so I also didn't have the context of the full thing. But I did put together that Philip is, you know, I mean, regardless, he's the husband. He's going to be the primary suspect automatically,
Mhm.
um, both in real life and in the script. Um, so I do think here, like, I don't want to say nice, but like the detective like should be more like I guess careful and like serious with Philip because he is the primary suspect.
Mhm.
Um, like he kind of like, this kind of feels a little bit lax, like Like
Like, he's not treating him like a suspect.
I don't think he would let Philip leave.
But the
Um,
Philip is the one who called him.
doesn't matter. N- Automatically he would bring him in for questioning.
Oh, okay.
Even if it even if he wasn't the husband, if he was on the scene, so he would be at least asked to be brought in for questioning. But since he's the husband, he would be the primary suspect. I mean, how many times have we heard people kill somebody and then they call the police? You know, that's something that happens pretty commonly
Mm,
because they think it's going to make them safe from questioning.
yeah.
I think OJ called the police. Um, let's see. Maria's kitchen. There she is. So there's a lot of scenes like this where it's just kind of two people talking. That's fine. You know, we want to see how they are together. Um, you know, what their relationship is like.
Hmm.
Um, it's also important though that they're doing something.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah, yeah, they're doing something on the
they're
same.
not doing a ton here. Um, like she's getting ready for work. Philip is doing something with a towel. He's so I guess he's got his sickness, so that's why he's like all messed up in the towel. Um, oh, so this was like a minor editorial note. Um, every time, so you have this action here. She nods, she exits,
You
he
want
watches the door. So these are three different actions that would be three different shots.
Dan,
Um,
give me one
yeah,
second. I need
yeah,
to take an office.
yep, yeah, no problem.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm back. Sorry about
Okay.
that. Yeah, that's one of my employees getting fired. He's been
Oh my
doing
God.
yeah, it's really tough. And I've been working with this guy for like 3 years. He's been with the company for 7 years. And like for me, it's hard for me to fire people because
Yeah.
know that this is like this might be the only job they have. This is what they use to take care of the family. It's really tough having to fire people. But at the same time, he's not like the A1 team member. He doesn't
Right.
listen, does whatever. So maybe it's a life lesson for him, and I hope he just learns from it. But it's just really tough. That's why I have to take the call because
Yeah.
it's just tough. Sorry about that again. All
Oh,
right,
no worries. All right. So this was just a minor editorial thing that I wanted to bring up. Like you have a couple parts in the script where you have this like these clumps of things that happen.
yeah.
You know, when you go to shoot this, this isn't going to be all in one shot.
Okay.
Um, so it should be separated. You know, she
Okay.
nods, she exits, he watches the door, he saw, these are all separate shots. So
Okay.
they should be separated just because that gives you a more accurate time. So
Okay.
so you usually a script is going to be like if it's 90 pages, it's going to be 90 minutes. It's usually pretty exact. Um, but if you clump things together like this, it's not going to be as exact. So
Okay.
it's just good to help time.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so now we're at the insurance office. This was a little bit tricky of a scene because we don't, we're being introduced to Wendy, who's the important character here.
Yeah.
Barbara isn't really super important. Um, I mean, she's the one that like ends up, I guess, like helping figure it out, but also like we don't need to really be
She's not.
invested in them.
Yeah.
I think you really want all of your characters to be like these very like deep,
Yeah.
like you want them to be full characters
That
that
was what
that
I got. Like everyone was like two-dimensional, so that's why I kept working layers into each of them, so they are not like
so
dimensional.
that is kind of a trap of a lot of, you know, younger filmmakers like us. Like the there's a lot of dialogue or there's a lot of rhetoric that makes people say like your characters need to be these deep things. No
Mhm.
matter what in a film, that's never going to be a real person. This is always going to be a specific time of their life, a specific day, just what you're showing them. So like don't really worry about that. Like there's no reason Barbara cannot just be a person that works in this office that ends up giving the cop information. There's no reason she can't be a two-dimensional character
I
because
like.
she is serving a purpose at the end of the day. And the purpose is in your movie. She's not a person. None of these people are people.
Mhm.
So like if people are telling you she needs to
What?
be
Okay.
this like complicated character, that's just not the case.
What if? Because also the character is also. Well, I see what you say. It's not really like the dialogue is not really helping that much, but I can kind of manipulate the dialogue to like help strengthen more of Wendy's character.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think Wendy's, anything you give us of Wendy here is I think worthwhile. I don't
Yeah.
think it needs to be. Let me see how long the scene is. One, two, three. It's like 3 pages before Philip gets there.
Mhm.
In a feature, that's fine. Um, I don't think this one's too bad. I remember there's like one or two scenes in here that go on for a while. Um, this one's not too bad, but yeah, like I would definitely try to quicken it up a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
we already saw Wendy with Philip, so we already got a little bit of like we don't need to do too much time with them. The important part of this scene is Philip arriving, really, um,
All right.
and
So
also like establishing where Wendy works, that Wendy works for Barbara. You know, the Barbara's the boss. Like that's what matters.
yes.
Like you just got to look at every scene with like what are the goals, what do I need to show the audience, and also how does this scene move the story forward.
Yes, yes, I'm definitely gonna do that. Because even this morning, that's one thing I was gonna work on. Like just go back and look at each of their dialogues and
Yeah.
see if we can like tweak it. But I understand what you're saying here. We revealing much about Barbara when she's not even like a key character in there. So we want to
Mhm.
like make Wendy the main focus because she's the main character.
Yeah. Because I think that can also confuse the audience if we're like making them think this is a more important character than she is. And I think she is still pretty important, but she's more of a tool. You know, she's like a tool for the story because she plays this role later on.
Yes, yes. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
this,
wow.
what's up?
So your comment there is wild. It looks stupid.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think especially nowadays, like, it's tricky because, like, there's a lot of people that don't, they don't want women to look dumb, especially. But Wendy does look really dumb in here. If she doesn't know that Philip is trying to kill his wife here, like, she's oblivious,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But like, she needs to be that character in the entire film if you're gonna have that. But I think
Um,
it's more interesting if she's in on it from the beginning.
So let me just put this out there too. Wendy is not that stupid.
Right,
Wendy is they're all kind of like using each other now. Wendy wants to
right.
use Philip to get out, to get the money to get out of the office. Philip wants to use Wendy because Wendy works there to do the
Yeah, of
insurance
course.
money. So Wendy's not that stupid. She's also, but then she still loves Philip because Philip was like a high school lover back
Right.
in.
And love makes you stupid. Yeah.
Yes, so
Yeah.
she's not stupid, but maybe
I think this is just like one or two steps too far. Like for her to not put this together is just too unbelievable to me. And I think it would be for a lot of audience members. But I mean just shortening this interaction, like making it a little bit more making what Philip says less obvious, I think could go a long way. I mean, but also in the next scene, you have her on board with him killing his wife. So like maybe it should just be that way from the beginning. Maybe it'd be more interesting if they just have this plan that they're talking about, but not really talking about, like they're
yeah,
both on board with it. I don't
I'm
know.
trying to walk her way into agreeing
Mhm.
to join it.
But I mean, like, you don't need to come into this story
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
like nothing set up. You can come into this story with like, if you wanted to, you could come into the story right before they kill not Wendy, Maria. Like
Mhm,
you can come into your story wherever you want. So they can already have been planning this for months.
mhm.
It's up to you. I mean, I think that would give it a little bit more energy, especially early on where it's slower. Um, if we see them putting together this plan and we see them kind of being sneaky.
Sort of like
Um,
medias res. It's already happening. We just like thrown into it.
yeah, I mean, I definitely the earlier half of the script is pretty slow. I mean, dramas in general are pretty slow. Um, but I think that could be a unique, just because you have in the very next scene Wendy agree pretty quickly to kill her wife or to kill Philip's wife. Like, I think you might as well just have them already be planning that.
Okay.
And also that would make this dialogue much shorter. They would already be like, they'd kind of be saying things like, oh, like, is this and this ready? Like, oh yeah, like I just need this, or like, I already told you this isn't gonna work if like I can't do the paperwork for this. It would be much shorter. It would have more energy. I think it could like move us through the story faster.
Okay.
But just a thought, it doesn't.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just definitely think that she shouldn't be so oblivious here because that's like a lot to believe, I think.
But then she also said anytime someone comes into our office and asks for double indemnity,
Hmm.
it's suspicious. So she's already suspicious about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what's the next thing here? It is. Oh yeah, I think that this is you can ignore this because I wasn't clear on his illness yet.
Okay.
Um, I think this is fine. I was just confused as to like because I thought it was like, oh, he did something bad, but no, he just coughed into his towel, I guess.
Okay.
But I don't know, maybe she should react to his towel in some way, like even if it's something that she's used to, she could, show her worried about him.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay. New line for separate action shots.
yeah, so same thing we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Um, and also like if, for example, like if you want something to be one shot, that's fine to leave it together. But I think in most cases you would not have this in one shot, like because this would be on him. This would be maybe on him in like a wider shot. Uh, this I think would have to be. I mean, like some of this you also don't like. You don't need to see him put his shoes.
Mm-hmm.
But here we're in Maria's backyard. Uh,
So this is what you just spoke
yeah,
about.
so this is the part that I liked a lot. Where like, oh, like she's in on it. Like it's more interesting. I think this could either. I think this could be maybe the di like not exactly maybe, but like if you wanted to, I think you could easily just move this dialogue to that last scene, and it would work better.
Okay.
Because then, well, I mean, I guess then Wendy wouldn't even be here, right? If they already talked about this in the previous scene. Like if they had already had this conversation, then Wendy wouldn't be at his house. But then that would also give us one less scene, you know. So that could help you if you wanted to do it that way.
Okay.
Um, yeah, this was like, very like kind of over the top, like very like kind of common in a drama movie to have people explain their whole life story out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Um,
So he could do something and Wendy could be like, really? And when
mhm.
discovers, instead of him saying, I have liver cancer, turmoil, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Yeah, like it's also more interesting when, it's important for characters to always be doing something. That's a very, very common flaw in indie film is like you'll have a whole script and you'll find your character hasn't done anything the whole movie.
Yeah.
Um, like if Wendy here, if she kind of figures things out a little bit, like if she's like, oh, like, are you sick? Like, or she's straight up said like, you're sick. Like, oh, like she realizes it now. Um, that just kind of makes the scene more balanced because it's not just Philip giving information, it's her putting information together and him like confirming. Um, but definitely shorter overall, like that interaction. Like, I mean, it's a very serious thing. It's difficult for people to talk about usually when they're like telling someone this. So I think this is definitely a moment where you could let the camera work do a lot. Like you could let the performance do a lot where they don't say as much, but
Mhm.
they feel the seriousness of it. Because also a lot of people can relate to this. So
Okay.
this is also big. Like we've seen Hitmen before, we've seen this type of thing before. You don't need to explain it so much.
Okay. So when I was picturing this scene, that was when I was trying to show, like, it's just like a way of me introducing Darnell.
Mhm.
Inside that he's talking, like you say, it's like off screen, and then we have Darnell doing what he's doing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, well, in that case, then you should write it out. You should write what Darnell's doing.
So she's not like just talking and we're looking at her kid talking. So
Okay, I think that works. I mean, I still wouldn't have her
like
explain. Like, well, so like, I think in scenes like that you're talking about that work really well is when what they're saying doesn't quite line up with what they're doing, like especially if it's the opposite, that's really interesting.
Mhm.
Um, like like Goodfellas will do that a lot where they have voiceover that's completely opposite to what they're doing. Um, because especially if you want to build Darnell as this person that's like obviously he's a bad guy, but he
Yeah,
does feel regret about some things he's done. Like
yeah.
if we
So
could,
I could move this and make this the opening scene that we spoke about.
that could be cool. Yeah, that could be cool.
And it will stay in the middle too, as long as it's introducing Daniel and what he did, and
Hmm.
the, of the person that the detective will be seeing on the grave.
And then that would still be Wendy's voiceover in the beginning.
No, we won't
Okay.
be the voiceover now.
Okay, so that's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind this where it is,
Yeah.
but maybe it'd be better to set up Darnell earlier since he is kind of pretty important.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, definitely if you want this to be shown, then definitely write it out as action.
Uh,
Even if it's repeating what's here, you should do that.
okay. Yeah. So this is the portion where I was like, while she's doing the voice over, I'll be showing this.
Hmm.
So it's just
Right, yeah, no, this makes sense. This is good. Oh, so you're saying while this is being read, he's
yeah,
doing this?
doing this, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But there's no way for me to like,
Well, so that would be so this is not off screen in that case. This is VO.
yeah,
Um
voice over, yes.
yeah, so because off screen is like when they're just not in shot.
Yeah,
So then this should be under this scene heading because it's part of this scene,
yes.
and then it would be VO.
Oh,
But I like this then. In that case, I like this imagery. He's obviously, like a tough, strong person.
mhm,
We kind of have like killer vibes when he's
mhm.
chopping wood. Um, I think that works. Yeah, how Wendy knows him doesn't matter. We don't need to know how they know each other. You just need to set up Darnell as a killer.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I just thought this sounded a little silly, the dark side,
Okay.
but you know, it's not a big deal. Um, I think it's just important to write down all of your gut reactions because that's what your audience gives you is gut reactions. Um,
The less than
yeah, so personally, I think, and I think this could be also not super accurate after having read the whole script, like seeing who Darnell is. But I think as a whole, you're going to see killers talking less because it makes them scarier, makes them more interesting, more mysterious. So depending on how much you want to give us of his backstory here, which tech, almost always backstory is not useful. Like that's I think most modern movies today spend 30 minutes on backstory that they do not need. Um,
Yeah, I
but
mean, the money for things like that, we don't have the money for that.
yeah,
And all we could take off, the better the shoots will be. So
yeah.
we just like
Like
do
you
it.
established that he's a killer. Like that's what matters. And also like because he attacks her at the end of the scene, right?
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
if they're just kind of talking, like if she's talking at him, like women do sometimes, like if she's just trying to get him to do this thing and doesn't even say this, like just like snaps at her, like
yeah,
he has that uncontrollable tendency in him, like that's more
yeah,
interesting, I think.
yeah.
But yeah, like I said, this is great, but I think the shorter you have this, and not shorter as in like it's going to be a faster scene, but like less dialogue, like longer shots and takes where like they say something and he like sits there and doesn't respond type thing.
Yeah,
Um,
like
like
it's
draw out that tension without having dialogue.
yeah, I completely get that.
Yeah. Um,
You know your thriller stations.
yeah.
It's
I mean, also like, uh, you're if you're planning on using Robert for this, he's the best of the best. He
hmm
has worked on big Hollywood productions. Like he is extremely experienced. So like, I want you to get the most out of him. So
yeah.
you know, the shorter you can make this, the more time you're going to be able to spend with him, really getting things how you like to the quality level that you want them.
hmm
Um, so I think that would be hugely like for my short, for example, the one I just did with him, we shot it was 5 pages long, but we shot it over 2 days
Wow.
um, because we had so much time. We had so much time to, and I also didn't do 12-hour days because I don't like to do that when
hmm
people aren't getting paid. I mean, I paid Robert, but like there was a lot of crew that I had and actors that were not paid
hmm
um, because it was a passion project.
hmm
So we did like 8-hour days,
hmm
so 16 hours total, um, about maybe 16, 17. But that allowed us to do multiple takes to if someone had an idea, if an actor had an idea of how to do something, to
hmm
try that, like give everybody time to be creative.
hmm
Um, so that's we're not going to be able to do that on this short. Not or not to that level. But just to have a little bit of time to not have that pressure to rush
Yeah.
is always good. Um, so try to have me happen in this scene 5 to 6. Oh yeah, so this was the like one of the longest scenes where like really nothing happens. Um, this is 6 pages of just them talking.
hmm
I think they're talking about this is when Wendy comes back to Philip after meeting Darnell
hmm
and he threatened her. Um, yeah, I mean this is a lot of them kind of talking about pretty like sort of common situations with films like this. So I think you can it's tricky to say like what can go and what can stay, but
So just
I think
cut instead
yeah, in general, like this does not need to be this long.
of 5 to 6 minutes.
And also like it's so I think the dialogue isn't the problem. It's just that they're kind of sitting there not doing anything. So like
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So I get what you're saying. So we
yeah,
give them.
I think for a lot of like good films, you'll find like I don't love this example, but it is sometimes true. If you turn the volume off, you're gonna see what the characters are doing. If a woman is like packing a bag and leaving her apartment, you're gonna see that they're having a fight and she's upset. Like, like it's important for the actions to tell the story because we are not writing a novel. We are playing in a visual medium. This is a visual like the visual is the most important thing in a
hmm
film. So like
hmm
we should be able to see what they're doing, whatever that is.
hmm
Um, it's good stuff. Yeah, see, like talk to her like liking Darnell and stuff. Um, yeah, I like this scene a lot. This was with Barbara and the detective figuring it out. I like that. I think that's pretty strong. I think everything after this point is pretty strong.
Yeah.
Here too, notice a big difference. Yeah, so like this I liked because there was a lot of very short dialogue here. There was a lot that the characters were feeling but not saying.
Mhm.
Um, I think this worked. So I think when you if you go back to rework past scenes, look at this scene and see how it differs.
hmm
Like, you know, they are working, they're still doing their work. Um, you know, also the meeting's gonna end in 3 minutes. Shouldn't be shouldn't he be checking on it? Yeah, this was a little weird, like because although I guess this could work for how the detective doesn't isn't maybe really a good guy. Because like
Yeah.
it is weird that he's like it's a crazy thing for him to say. Like, oh, I hope the person I'm supposed to be protecting survives. Like that's
So the reason why in is because the detective doesn't have any concrete evidence and is
Right. It's just like a crazy thing for him to say because it is his job to protect people. Like it's kind of in bad taste. Not like in the writing, but like in if we're a cop were to say that, that would be a bad cop, you know. That's just not proper to say like, oh, I hope this person doesn't die.
Mhm.
But maybe that's just how I'm reading it, and that's not how you want him to deliver it. I guess that could be the case,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It's whenever you see something like this, and like I give you my gut reaction here, you definitely don't need to take all of these notes like super seriously, but you should always look at like
Think about it and see
I
if it's
had some sort of reaction to this, so there's
Mhm.
maybe something that needs to be looked at here.
Yeah.
Um, great scene. What was this? This was
Philip and Wendy. I think the Zoom is about to end.
yeah, 1 minute 20 seconds.
I can send you a link.
Okay.
I'm just gonna end this and then I'll send you the
Yep.
link.
Okay. All right.
I think I'll just have to make you host, I believe.
I think you won't be able to record if you do that.
Oh, okay. Um,
But
but
if you
you
click on the dots on the top of my screen, I think it should be allowed to share screen or something like that.
I did it before.
Yeah.
I think you should be able to share it.
Yep. There. Okay. So this scene, I was just a little confused here as to like, because to me it seemed like in that last scene with, or not the last scene, but the previous scene with Barbara and the cop, it seemed like she was kind of on to them, but now they're like kind of having a good time together. I guess that wasn't the case. Like she didn't really figure it out.
Yeah, and I like that you're thinking about that because I didn't think about that, honestly. So the whole point of this scene was to create an alibi for them.
Hmm. Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Barbara comes to their house. They're not going to Barbara's house.
Right.
So I didn't think about Barbara being super suspicious to the point of canceling coming to their house.
Hmm. I think that's fine. I mean, I think just like take a look again at this scene and, or sorry, wherever. Here we go. This scene. Um, like I think if you want that to be the case, maybe Barbara could be because she already is kind of defensive of Wendy. Like she like doesn't want the detective poking in too much.
Yes.
Um, so maybe she could like be more defensive and like make the detective leave or something where like she's on Barbara's side. Like we establish she doesn't believe this,
Yes.
but also I think naturally she would have a little bit of suspicion, which is fine. I think she can still go to dinner with them or whatever, but maybe we can have some sort of like hint that she is like maybe she asks some questions like
And
just to
him off.
sorry.
She acts like a question that throws Wendy off.
Well, she just like ask a question that would make the audience think that
She's
she
like
is
something.
not 100% sure if they're innocent. Like she wants to see what they're up to.
What about like detective coming to the office? What if she mentions like a detective comes to the office and they're now they're like looking at her like did he see anything? What really
Mhm.
happened?
Yeah. Yeah, he could be like, he could urge Barbara to maybe not trust Wendy so much or, something like that. Something to just make this party scene, which is supposed to be light and fun or whatever, and
And
make it a little bit tense.
the funny thing is that detective coming to Barbara's scene actually happened at my workplace. I had the girl that was working at my store, and we had customers who the customer left his credit card and she found the credit card. Instead of putting it in lost and found, she started using the money on the credit card.
Oh my God.
So this detective came to me. She was like, "Do you know this person?" I was like, "I don't know the person. Does this person work for you?" I said, "No." And then she said, "It was like it's a detective." I said, "I can't give you nothing about unless I reach out to the loss prevention district
Yeah.
leader." Something like that actually happened at my workplace before I eventually like started working with the detective. That's why I was
Yeah.
able to like,
No, that's good. I think that scene is good. It's just how it affects
how
this
it,
scene is you need
the,
to think about.
the Dina scene, yes.
Yeah, it maybe show that Barbara is thinking about that interaction. Um, like maybe she even brings up that a detective was there.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, because then that also gives urgency to Wendy and Philip later on.
And they're
Um,
like, what did the detective tell you? Even though they're not
yeah,
asked, you could just
yeah.
see.
Like maybe Barbara's just trying to have a good time, but she's
Mhm.
like, oh, there was a detective here, and then Wendy and Philip keep asking questions, like they want to know more, but Barbara just like wants to go out and get drunk or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, like that could be always like making, you know, obviously this is two groups. This is Philip and Wendy versus Barbara, sort of in this scene, not versus, but like
yeah,
their their
mhm,
their desires should be in contrast. Like if
yes,
Barbara just wants to have a good time, they should be trying to figure something out, or vice versa.
yeah, yeah. I completely agree with that.
Um, yeah, so I was just a little confused here, I guess. Like she's asking about Maria's murder or a different murder.
So this scene is like I was just kind of like create a setup for what's gonna happen in the second half of the film.
Hmm.
It's pretty much like a scene of him soliloquizing, and I just didn't know how to put it. That's why I just created like we saw him going to the burial ground to talk to his dad. And then I was like, okay, like almost like a ghost of his dad is appearing next to him and is like telling him, because also keep in mind there's a recession in the wall going on, and
Hmm.
he's trying to also get the money. So it's like, okay, there's a crime, there's a motive, but there's no one to really commit the crime. So that's why he goes, he sees an opportunity to like get some money to like be able to, because he also has like a divorce going on. He can't see his kid. So if he has money,
Hmm.
that help him fix his problem. So the motive is everything he's talking about is Maria's mother. It's just like because he's thinking that he's shown face at the office, everyone will step back and not go on with the crime. Daniel doesn't want to commit the crime. Wendy now knows that he's onto her, so he's not going to commit the crime. Philip obviously is not going to kill his wife. So the only thing there for him to get out of the recession is for him to go on. But then I just didn't want to prompt him. So that's why I just like created the scene of father and son moments. Like he's
Yeah,
an advice, but it's not like a straightforward advice. And he kind of take it the wrong way and he goes ahead
yeah,
and
yeah. I mean, this is a tricky scene too because you're turning this sort of like regular's not there. I mean, you know what I mean? Like not um like real life sort of film, and you're kind of making it a little bit supernatural here with it's kind of a tricky place to be because you might lose some of your audience with
Mhm.
that. I don't think it I'm also thinking about this as like, do you have a place to shoot this, the firing range?
um I don't have a place. I could talk to
Okay.
some outside.
Yeah, I mean like it sounds like logistically it'd be difficult because even if like unless you had a relationship with like an owner of a place, because like I'm sure there's all kinds of regulations for like how many
Mhm.
people can be in the range and like filming in the like that sounds very tricky.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know.
So the reason why I have that there was because of the shootout in the end, because
Mhm.
there was shootout, and I want us to just portray him as someone who's very accurate before the shootout in the end. Like it wasn't
I
even
mean,
there.
I don't
Doesn't
think you need that. I mean, he's a detective. He should be they have to put in a certain amount of hours in the firing range. So
okay. Yeah, but it
I don't think you need that if that's I mean, you also have this whole dad and son conversation here, you know. Um, but I think depending on how you decide to go with the detective's character, I don't know. I like I said, I think you could get away without having this scene, but it definitely requires a sort of rethinking
yeah,
of this character.
yeah, the scene really doesn't have to be there. I was just trying to put it there just to show that he's a sharpshooter.
Yeah, I mean, he could also be in someone's back, like in we can use one of the backyards as like I
Like
don't
a
know.
shooter in the backyard.
Yeah, like because I mean, people do that in rural areas.
Backyard shootout.
Not the shootout, but like he could have a target in his backyard, and that would be easier for us to film than at a shooting range.
Down the region.
Um, oh, this was yeah the dad and son conversation. Also, yeah, like the dad in this, if you want to have this, he really doesn't.
So my plan was to have the
I
same,
guess I see what you're saying with like he gives you advice, but he
yeah,
takes it the wrong way. But he really doesn't give him actionable advice in the first place. Like it's very ambiguous to begin with. So I don't know. It's a little. It just doesn't really work for me, I guess. But maybe you could find a way to do it.
yeah. Well, you said ambiguous. That's kind of like what I was going for. So because if it's straightforward
Mhm.
and something else, then it's
I mean,
not.
I think it could still be straightforward, but interpreted in a different way. Like if he says like, like I don't know, like
If you have a
no,
motive for them, there's always
like oh, like look at this piece of evidence, but like I don't know. I guess I get what you're saying, but it just feels like I guess it feels too ambiguous to the point where like it feels like the dad didn't help at all. So it's like why are you even and for the dad to like basically come back to life to like tell him this, it feels like it should be something really important that he's saying, and it just isn't.
like you've seen Black Panther where the dad came back to
Yeah,
help.
I know, but like this is like a fantastical thing that's happening. It
Yeah,
feels like it should have a big purpose. Like in Black Panther, it had a big purpose.
yeah.
Like
Tell him
T'Challa was like at his lowest point and he really needed help. And T'Chaka like really like gave him kind of the peace of mind and stuff that he, I mean, I don't remember it exactly, but
Mhm.
um, it was definitely a more important purpose than this. Like Raymond really didn't give him any help at all.
Okay.
Um, oh, so yeah, this was just more of like I'm confused as to how much Barbara knows, but we talked about that already. Yeah, I was also confused by this because there was like a moment where, and I could have just read this wrong, but there was a moment where like Barbara drinks out of a cup and like Philip does something weird with it. I thought they had like poisoned Barbara. I guess that's not the case though.
No, 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 no. It's just because Philip, keep in mind, Philip is a manipulative dude. And that scene also, I was trying to set up a scene whereby Philip is actually, it crosses his mind to actually date Barbara because
Oh,
Barbara, I'm very impressed with Barbara. Barbara is hardworking. She's a go-getter. She's the boss. She could do the double indemnity. And
mhm.
he's actually second guessing Wendy in that moment.
Okay.
So that's like what I was also trying to create in
Yeah, I
that.
definitely didn't get that, but I mean, maybe I also was kind of seeing Barbara as like an older lady, so maybe that's why. I don't know. But let's see, what's so far back? Um, no, so this is what we are. Okay, so yeah, this was just another editorial sort of thing. Like, I think because we've already seen this, you should cut back into it later on.
So it should be like
Um,
a dialogue that wasn't at the beginning. It should be like a continuation of before.
well, either it could be more dialogue that we didn't hear, or it could just straight. Because also, like we, if you did want to use more of the stuff from before, I don't think you need to write it in because we could just literally edit in like the same exact footage. We wouldn't need to reshoot it again. Um, so I
Yeah,
think you might as well just cut into it, uh, at least close to where you want to cut into it.
yeah. So I was thinking of doing like different camera angle. So at the very beginning, maybe like show like the side and back.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know really know what that does for you. Um, like I think you can definitely come into it like a little bit from what we've seen, but this is just too much, I think.
Okay.
Because this is just like starting all over again, and that feels like
Yeah.
too
Mm.
much. Like the audience is gonna get it that we're coming back to what we saw in the beginning.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
So
because like we get all of this stuff again. We get all of this again. I'm pretty sure. Maybe
okay.
not. Maybe we didn't get. Oh no, yeah, we got this. Maybe we didn't get this before. No, we did.
Yeah, that was the beginning.
We got yeah. So this is a lot to redo again. Um, yeah. Again, same thing again here with the separate actions, separate lines. Um, like this. This is good. This is separated. I guess I thought this was good if I didn't do anything. Yeah, I think. I mean, like I said, for the most part, the second half is pretty good. What is it technically? Yeah, this it just hit me the wrong way. It was obviously it's a twist, but it's not the right way to do a twist.
Okay. So the reason why I have that there was because Barbara wants to look into it and he wants to, I mean, she wants to like ask more questions. And it's almost like the detective threatens her to take the money and stay silent.
Yeah, it's just like it's so different from what we've seen from him that it just doesn't. like it feels like you did it as, and this could be maybe different for, I don't think so. I think the audience would feel the same way, but it just feels like you did it just to shock the audience. Like when the like when a movie kills off an important character just because they want the audience to cry. Like that's not how you do that. That's how it feels like you can do that, but
Mhm.
that's just and some movies might do it and they might do decently, but a good movie is not gonna do it that way.
Okay.
So it's like it could be something you could try to do just to get shock value, but that's not what your goal should be.
Yeah.
Because like really good twists, like I mean I don't watch a lot of dramas, so it's tough to. I mean Saw has some of the best twists, I think.
Hmm.
Um, Prisoners has pretty good twist. Yeah, I mean there's plenty of famous movies that did like the really famous movies with twists are gonna do what I said. They're gonna set it up, or they might have a scene, and you could possibly do this. You could have a scene where maybe you see like a montage or something of the detective doing things that looked normal before, but actually had a a different purpose or a darker. I don't personally like that because that's a little bit like amateurish, um, but some movies do that in a good way.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so yeah, so same thing we just talked about. Yeah, so like having that big shocking twist made me take everything else less seriously. So that could be one of the effects of doing that. Um, this is just my personal opinion, but I think a lot of audience members might feel the same way.
Hmm.
Maybe the detective isn't actually bad, but he's uh, yeah. This was my thought that maybe he's just trying to do all of this to get Darnell out because obviously hitmen are hard to find, and that's the end.
Okay. All right then. So yeah, I will watch the video all over again and just go back to the drawing board and just rework a lot of the scenes. And
Cool.
also think about more stuff to add. But I really do
Yeah, of
appreciate you taking the
course,
time
man.
to help me with this. Honestly, I really do appreciate it. Um, so yeah, so based on what you just said now, let's say we have 15 locations. So it's best to do like one location a day.
Yeah, I mean, if so, and also let me break down the locations that I have written down. So it's the park where we see this crime scene. It's the
Hmm.
floral store where we see the cop. So that's an easy one to remove if you want to take that one out.
Hmm.
There's the burial ground, which I could see a version where you keep it. I could see a version where you take it out. Depends on how you write it. There's Maria's apartment. There's the insurance office. There's Maria's backyard, which is Maria's apartment, but
Hmm.
there's Daryl's apartment, Daryl's backyard. There's the street, which I don't remember where that is, but there was some scene in the street.
So
What?
then,
Oh, I could just look at.
mhm.
Oh, I spelled street. Okay. Street. So she is sitting by the corner. So this is when they talk about the cop thing. Um,
We should meet him outside, yeah.
mhm. Um, there's Wendy's apartment. There's the store, which I think is the floral store again, or is
The
that a different store? I think you just wrote store.
the liquor store.
The liquor store. Okay. Um, is that interior?
That should be
I fucking spelled it right. Store night, respite. I mean, this could be like in his car.
Yeah, I mean that's fine because honestly, they could it could just be his car. Because my whole
Yeah.
point I was trying to set up the scene to have him kind of like drunk, so he's not like doing things from
No,
his.
yeah, for sure. You could just have a bottle like in his car. Also for like, for example, if you wanted to do the Wendy and Philip conversation that was in the street, if you want to do that in a car, because that also gives the energy of like a secret meeting, like a something they don't want people to hear.
Yeah,
Just to because I think using a car for a couple of these could be good because you could set that up anywhere, pretty
yeah,
much. Like we could if we're shooting at Maria's apartment one day, we can just have a car parked outside and also do it's we want to make it easier to do multiple scenes in one day or multiple locations in one day.
yeah.
Um,
I can see
that way
that.
we're not moving around. Firing range, I think it'd be a good idea to try to
Yeah, well, I'm taking that out.
take that
And
out. There's detective's office, which I think is probably important. Um, that also could be difficult because it is hard to. I think it's doable if we have a place where like we have the flexibility to like move furniture and stuff. Like you
Mhm.
could definitely do that. Like set up a room as an office.
Yeah, I have a
You could
home,
also.
but I don't think I'll be using. I was going to use my home office for a lot of the shots, but
Mhm.
I'll just for an outside office and just work with, because my home office is not like I can move things around easily, but I
Mhm.
mean, if anything, I'm going to have like an art director, and if you also want to come, you could see if we could use the home office and move things around. If not, I can easily scout for locations and just
Yeah, I
film.
mean, I think it's important to definitely send any location pictures that you can to Robert so that he can kind of plan for what like because
Equipment and stuff.
yeah, I mean, not so much equipment, just like if because he's going to be able to tell you if it's going to work for the scene. Also, I mean, he's gonna like his job is to make it work, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, especially because you're on such a tight timetable,
Hmm.
um, you don't he's gonna tell you if it's possible to do all these in one day, but that's also more my job, I guess, if I'm helping you produce this.
Hmm.
Um, there's Chedge's office, there's the bank, and then there's Philip's car.
Yeah,
So
so
those are that's 15.
yeah, so the bank was like an exterior thing. Um, he's just gonna go in and come out. He's not really doing anything inside the bank.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but it's still yeah, still a location.
but we also have to go somewhere and park his car outside the bank. Um,
Or maybe we don't have to show him going inside the bank. We could just show him leaving his car and then coming back into the car with two large suitcases.
yeah, I mean, you could start the scene with him throwing bags of money into the car. Like
Hmm.
you definitely don't have to. That's another common thing in indie film is like you show someone walking down the stairs, going into their car, going somewhere. Like you can just show them at like you don't need to show every beat in between. You can film is like that. You can just show the parts that matter, the parts that move the story forward.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sounds
So don't
good.
be afraid to. The way I like to write is I like to make it like as short as possible, like almost to the point where it's like too short, like where we cut too much because I think it's much easier to take a look at it. Like let's say if you cut this down to like this is dramatic, but if you cut it down to like 60 pages, I think
Hmm.
it's easier to see to look at those pages and be like, okay, this scene could use a little bit more room to breathe. This scene could
Yeah,
this scene
it's
maybe isn't necessary. Like I think it's easier to expand than it is to shrink because like you're looking at it right now, it's very tough to decide how to rewrite some scenes,
yeah, I could
how to
direct.
take out like I think it's easier to increase a scene's length than it is to decrease the scene's length.
Yeah, I could rewrite some. I could definitely write the scenes. It's funny because the first version had like 56 pages, and then I
Mhm.
just kept adding,
Interesting.
and rewriting. So now just
Yeah, I
now,
mean, you're making an indie feature also. Like, you don't feel like you need to make it 90 pages. Like, I mean, it's you know, you said you want to put it on YouTube or you want to try to get it
no,
on like Tubi or something.
some Prime.
Amazon Prime, okay.
Yeah.
Um, Amazon Prime, from what I've heard, is not great if you want to like make money from it. It's also not great for like searchability because like realistically, nobody is watching shorts on Amazon Prime. I've heard good things from Tubi and some other platforms.
Hmm.
Um, but that's also like it's hard to get those distribution deals,
Okay. How about Netflix?
especially for a drama. Like if I've had meetings with sales agents and like features are definitely more marketable than shorts, but genres is very important. Like drama is probably the hardest genre to market
Okay.
because there's so much competition. But
Oh, so which one is the best one to market? Is it comedy?
horror, definitely horror.
Horror? Really? Horror?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, my next film is a it's a horror movie then.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean horror is there that is the most forgiving audience. That people will watch a bad horror movie any day of the week, but people will not watch a bad drama. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Me-
And you can get away with low budgets on a horror much more than you can on like any other genre. Also,
mm,
like there's a lot of platforms that are specifically for like Shudder. There's a lot of YouTube channels that host horror films like Alter. Um, yeah, horror is really big. That's why I'm doing like only horror lately because that's not necessarily the only thing I want to do, but it is
no, I like horror movies.
something.
I
Yeah,
like movies. I like The Conjuring. I've seen all The
yeah,
Conjuring,
Conjuring's fantastic. Yeah,
The Exorcist. I love The Exorcist.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, definitely think about like think about what you want to do because
yeah.
also like when did you say you were planning on doing this? I don't know if we talked about that.
Gonna change because of all the feedback that I just got.
Right,
So
right, right.
it's really gonna change. Initially, I thought I had it all figured out. My plan
Hmm.
was film November, but I can't do November. So now I have to go back. But my plan was once I want to have the script done, I want to have the script breakdown, the call sheet and everything. And once I have all those things, then I will um plug in the dates and give
Right,
everyone 1 month. We'll be shooting in 1 month. But if the script is not done to the point where we can like film, I think
right.
I'm 60% there with this good feedback that I have, and I go back. I think at least I should be like 80%, 85%, then I should be ready to film. Then
Okay,
my AD do all the screenplay breakdown and everything. And once we have the breakdown, the location, we do our location scouting, and then all that's left is to plug it. Because if I fix a date now, I don't know if it's gonna happen if I fix the date now.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was just gonna say because like you seem committed to like doing this the right way, and like obviously you want to hire Robert, which is not cheap. So if you wanted to pivot ideas or if you wanted to rework this and take the time to rework this, you know definitely think about like kind of where your resources are best spent. Like if you wanted to do something horror, for example, I know Robert would like Robert doesn't really care about genre too much, but we did just do a horror together, so
Mhm.
um, I think he's been getting more into horror lately,
Mhm.
and I definitely think you could cut more corners that way. So I definitely plan on having my first feature be a horror just because that's the most
Uh,
that would be the easiest. and the most marketable. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's the most connected. But I was looking into different horror movies and like was it Texas Chainsaw? The budget
Mhm.
was 100,000 and it
Yeah,
ended up
that no, there's horror movies by far have the most return on investment.
yeah,
I mean,
even
sorry.
Get Out.
Yeah, Get Out was pretty big. Evil Dead, I think, is like the most
Yeah,
return of any movie.
yeah, movie
Um, but
five return was 200
yeah,
million.
it's tough though. I mean, you really can't compare that to today's time because it was so much easier to make money back then than it is today. It was like it's easier to make a movie today, but there's also a billion people making movies when back then there was 1,000, you know? So
Yeah,
it's tough. I hate listening to like podcasts and stuff and like old people like old directors will be like, oh, it's so easy to do this, this, and this. It's like, yeah, it was easy back then because you had no competition. Like
yeah,
now it's never been harder and it will never be easier than it is now. Or it will never be harder than it is now.
yeah. The competition is so strong now. It's like
It's
you
not
have
even that it's strong, it's just that there's so much.
yet so much. Yeah, yeah. Okay, all right then. Thank you so much, Dan.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna ask you, as a producer, what are the resources that you need from me to be able to like effectively, you know, function as my producer?
Um, I mean, definitely the finished script will be the number one.
Oh,
Um, it'd be good to have like a lockdown of
the dates?
all no all the locations. Like I want to make sure that we have access to all the locations.
Uh-huh.
Um, something that's going to be big for Robert is I don't know if you guys talked about insurance.
Yep.
That's something that can be expensive, but I mean, Robert's going to have a lot of expensive equipment, so
Yeah.
it is
Yep.
important.
Okay.
And all that also insurance would also be another reason to make this shorter. Like, I mean, I think 8 days is like you definitely shouldn't try to make it shorter than an 8 day shoot, but like a shorter amount of pages, I guess. Um, but yeah, I
Okay.
mean, really just keep me updated. I mean, yeah, the script is the most important thing. I mean, we can really go from there.
All
Um,
right. I will start working on doing the whole script revision again. I should have that by the end of next week. I'll actually start working on it, I'd say Monday, because tomorrow, usually I do it on, on Saturday, but tomorrow I have something going on the whole day with my family. So I won't be able to really go into it. But I'll start working on it on Monday. And then, because Monday's my day off, but then I work on
okay,
Tuesday, Friday. On the days I work, I only have like a 2 hours window, and I don't really get much done within those 2 hours.
right.
So I would have it by the end of Saturday, and
Okay,
then say, um, I could get in touch with you once I have it on Saturday or maybe Sunday, whichever one works for you. Um,
okay,
latest by Monday, not this coming Monday, the following Monday,
right.
I'll have the script fully revised and everything. I'm gonna go back, watch this video over and over again just to get things in my head and know which area I want to like, change.
Yeah, I mean, t take your time too. I mean, I know, I know how it feels to want to do it and to want it, but like you're spending a lot of money and a lot of resources to like, so make sure take your time. Like I know it sucks to wait, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. Thank you so much, Dan. I really
yeah,
got um and I'll definitely be in touch if anything. But yeah, I will start looking into the insurance thing too. I spoke with Robert. I'll just talk to Robert and let him know about the conversation
yeah,
we had that we need to just go back and do some reworking. So it's not like um so it's not just out of the loop. It doesn't know what's going on.
yeah, no, yeah, for sure.
All right
All
then.
right,
Thank
man.
you.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
You can, peace.
All right, bye.